Commander Vexthor stared at the large screen on the bridge of his ship. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the small blue planet. Earth looked peaceful and defenseless from this distance. His scaled fingers tapped impatiently on the arm of his command chair. "Status report," he said, his deep voice echoing across the silent bridge. Officer Krell moved quickly to his side. "Supreme Commander, we have lost all contact with our advance fleet. All 12 ships have vanished from our sensors." Vexthor hissed softly, a sound that made the bridge crew lower their heads. When the Supreme Commander was angry, people died. Impossible. These humans are primitives. They have barely reached their own moon. They cannot have technology to hide. 12 Draconian warships. Yes, Supreme Commander, but the facts remain. Our ships approached Earth orbit 6 hours ago. Then all signals stopped. Vexthor stood up, his tall frame towering over his officer. The Draconian Empire had conquered 17 solar systems. They had crushed advanced civilizations with powerful weapons. How could humans with their simple rockets and basic satellites make 12 warships disappear? "Prepare my battle fleet. I will lead the investigation personally. These humans are hiding something, and I intend to find out what it is." The massive Draconian ships moved silently through space toward Earth. They had cloaking technology that made them invisible to human radar. At least that's what they believed. Alan Boyd yawned as he stared at his computer screen. The night shift at Sentinel Base was usually quiet. Hidden deep underground in Nevada, the base looked like a normal military facility from above. Few people knew what really happened beneath the surface. The computer beeped suddenly. Alan sat up straight, his tiredness gone in an instant. The screen showed 12 red dots appearing near the far side of the moon. Then just as quickly the dots vanished. He picked up a phone and dialed quickly. "Dr. Miller, it's Boyd. They're back. And there are more this time." 20 minutes later, Susan Miller hurried into the control room. Her gray hair was messy and she wore a wrinkled lab coat over pajamas. She didn't care how she looked. The situation was too serious. "Show me the data," she said, sitting down. At the main computer, Alan pulled up the readings. 12 ships just like last time. They appeared for about 3 minutes before the Sentinel system activated. Susan studied the screen, her fingers typing quickly. "The ships are bigger than the ones 6 months ago. They're learning, adapting, but they still don't know what they're dealing with." Alan looked worried. "Should we tell the president?" "Not yet. Let's activate Phase 2 first. We need to know what we're dealing with." Susan picked up a secure phone. "Get me John Kelly at NASA, please." John Kelly was having dinner with his wife when his special phone rang. Only 3 people had that number. He excused himself and went to his home office. "Kelly here. John, it's Susan. We need you at Sentinel Base. They're back." John felt his heart beat faster. "How many?" 12 ships just disappeared, but our deep space sensors show 17 more approaching. Bigger ships, probably a battle fleet. "I'll be there in an hour." John hung up and opened his desk drawer. He pulled out a small metal card and pressed his thumb against it. A hidden door in his bookcase slid open, revealing a small elevator. His wife appeared at the door. "They're back, aren't they?" He nodded. "Don't wait up. This might take a while." She kissed him goodbye, used to his sudden departures after 15 years of marriage. What she didn't know was that John wasn't really a NASA engineer. That was just his cover. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, Sentinel Base came to life. 50 people worked in the secret facility, monitoring Earth's hidden defenses. These defenses had been in place for decades, unknown to the public or even most of the government. Alan, Susan, and John sat in the main conference room with General Richard Carter. On screens around them, they could see the approaching Draconian fleet. 17 capital ships, over 40 support vessels, General Carter said. "They're not being subtle this time." John studied the data carefully. The Sentinel system worked perfectly on the advanced ships. They've been contained in the moon facility. But this fleet is different. Their shields are stronger. Susan nodded. "We need to modify the gravity distortion field. We can't just make them disappear this time." "What do you suggest?" asked the general. I think it's time we sent a message, John said. Earth has been hiding long enough. Alan looked surprised. Are you suggesting first contact? That goes against everything we've planned. The Draconians aren't going to stop coming, John explained. They've detected something about Earth that interests them. Probably the same thing that brought our visitors here in 1957. General Carter frowned. The secretary won't like changing the protocol. We've kept Earth's true capabilities secret. For a reason. Maybe it's time for that to change, Susan said quietly. The galaxy is getting more dangerous. The Draconians have attacked 3 other worlds this year. The general was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll call the secretary. In the meantime, prepare the Sentinel system for a targeted strike. Let's show these lizards what they're really dealing with. In orbit, Vex Thor's massive command ship led the Imperial fleet toward Earth. His previous caution had changed to anger. The loss of 12 ships demanded revenge. Weapons systems ready, Supreme Commander, reported his tactical officer. The humans show no signs of detecting our approach. Vex Thor smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Begin the attack sequence. I want their defense systems destroyed first. Then we'll take what we want from this planet. Yes, Supreme Commander. Preparing to fire main. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. The ship shuddered violently. What's happening? Vex Thor demanded. Unknown energy field surrounding the ship. It's interfering with our systems. Vex Thor rushed to the main viewport. Outside, space itself seemed to bend and twist around his fleet. A blue glow surrounded each ship, freezing them in place. Impossible, he whispered. These humans can't have this technology. On his command screen, a message appeared. It was written in perfect Draconian. Attention, Draconian fleet. Your ships have entered protected space. Stand down or be neutralized. This is your only warning. Vex Thor stared at the message in shock. Everything he knew about Earth was wrong. The humans weren't primitive at all. They were something much more dangerous. And they had been waiting for him. Vex Thor stared at the message on his screen for a long moment. His fleet of powerful warships hung motionless in space, caught in some kind of energy field he had never seen before. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore their systems, but nothing worked. Supreme Commander, we are receiving a transmission from Earth, his communications officer reported. Show me, Vex Thor ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. The large screen on the bridge flickered, and a human face appeared. It was an older male with gray hair and a serious expression. Greetings, Commander Vex Thor of the Draconian Empire, the human said. I am General Richard Carter of Earth's Sentinel Defense Program. Your ships have violated protected space. Vex Thor hissed in surprise. How do you know my name? How have you disabled my fleet? The human smiled slightly. We know much more than that, Commander. We have been monitoring your Empire's movements for decades. As for your ships, they are currently held in a gravity distortion field. They will remain there until our discussion is complete. This was impossible. Humans were not supposed to have this level of technology. According to Imperial intelligence, they had only basic space travel capabilities. What do you want? Vex Thor demanded. First, an explanation of why you are here, General Carter replied, though we already suspect the answer. In the Sentinel base conference room, General Carter spoke to the alien commander on the large screen. Behind him stood Susan, Alan, and John, watching carefully. 20 armed soldiers stood guard around the room. They look exactly like the reports described, Susan whispered to John. The scaled skin, the yellow eyes. John nodded. Just like the ones we captured 6 months ago. On the screen, the Draconian commander looked angry and confused. We detected unusual energy readings from your planet, energy that suggests advanced technology. We came to investigate. You mean you came to steal, General Carter said. Just as you did on Centauri Prime and Proxima b, the alien's eyes widened. How do you know about those worlds? General Carter ignored the question. Your advanced fleet has been contained. Your battle group is now immobilized. What happens next depends on you, Commander. Susan stepped forward. General, may I? He nodded and moved aside. Susan took his place in front of the camera. Commander Vexthor, I am Dr. Susan Miller. We have a proposal for you. We will release one of your ships as a gesture of good faith. You will be allowed to return to your empire with a message from Earth. What message? The alien asked suspiciously. That Earth is not what you thought it was, that we are not defenseless primitives, and that any further aggression against our planet will be met with force. The Draconian commander hissed again, showing sharp teeth. You dare threaten the Draconian Empire? We have conquered 17 systems. We have destroyed civilizations older than your recorded history. John stepped forward next to Susan. And yet here you are, Commander, unable to move your ships, unable to fire your weapons, at the mercy of the primitives. Vexthor felt rage building inside him. These humans spoke to him with complete confidence, as if they held all the power. And the worst part was, they did. His mighty fleet was frozen in space, helpless. I demand to know how you have achieved this technology, he said. Humans are not capable of such advancements. The human called John smiled. That's where you're wrong, Commander. We've had help. The camera view widened, and Vexthor gasped. Standing behind the humans was a tall, silver-skinned being with large, almond-shaped eyes. A Luminari. The Draconian Empire had heard legends of this ancient race, but they were believed to be extinct. Impossible, Vexthor whispered. Earth has been under Luminari protection for 70 years, John explained. Since their first ships arrived in 1957, we keep our true technological capabilities hidden for a reason, Commander. The silver being stepped forward. Its voice was soft but clear. The Draconian Empire has upset the balance we have worked to maintain. Your expansion threatens peaceful worlds. This must stop. Vexthor struggled to process this information. The Luminari were real. They were protecting Earth. Everything the Empire knew about this sector of space was wrong. What are your terms? He finally asked. You will be given coordinates for a neutral meeting ground, General Carter said. There, representatives from Earth and the Luminari Council will discuss terms with your empire. You have 3 cycles to bring your leadership to this meeting. And if we refuse? The silver being's large eyes blinked slowly. Then the Draconian Empire will face consequences beyond your comprehension. Alan watched the exchange with growing tension. This was far beyond what they had planned. Direct contact with the Draconians was risky enough. Revealing their connection to the Luminari was something else entirely. Are we sure about this? He whispered to Susan. It's time, she replied quietly. We've hidden long enough. The Draconians won't stop their expansion unless they understand what they're dealing with. On the screen, the alien commander seemed to be considering his options. I will deliver your message, he finally said. But know this, humans. The Empire does not take threats lightly. General Carter nodded. Then we understand each other. One of your ships will be released in 30 minutes. The rest will remain. Here is insurance. The transmission ended, and everyone in the room let out a collective breath. Do you think he'll actually go back? Alan asked. John nodded. He has no choice. If he doesn't return, the Empire will just send more ships, and they'll meet the same fate. General Carter turned to the Luminary ambassador. Thank you for agreeing to reveal yourself. I know your people prefer to remain hidden. The silver being inclined its head. The time for hiding is coming to an end. The galaxy changes. We must change with it. In his quarters aboard the command ship, Vexthor reviewed everything he knew about Earth. Humans had been under observation by the Empire for decades. They were considered primitive, barely able to reach their own moon. Their weapons were simple, their technology basic. But it had all been a lie, a carefully constructed facade. The ship's computer showed images of Earth's space program. Simple rockets, basic satellites, a small space station. Nothing that suggested the ability to immobilize 17 Draconian warships. Nothing that suggested an alliance with the Luminari. A soft chime indicated that one of his ships had been released from the energy field as promised. Soon he would return to the Empire with news that would change everything. Earth was not what it appeared to be. and whatever was hiding there was more dangerous than anyone had imagined. As his ship turned away from Earth, Vexthor looked once more at the blue planet. It looked so peaceful, so ordinary, the perfect disguise. He had underestimated the humans. The Empire had underestimated them. It was a mistake they would not make again. 3 days passed since Vexthor left Earth with his single ship. The rest of the Draconian fleet remained frozen in Earth's orbit, held by the mysterious energy field. Inside the Sentinel base, preparations were underway for what might be the most important meeting in human history. John Kelly studied the star map on the large screen. A small red dot marked the neutral meeting location, a space station hidden in an asteroid field between Earth and Proxima Centauri. "The Emperor has agreed to the meeting," General Carter said as he entered the room. "He will arrive tomorrow with 3 ships. Susan looked up from her computer. "Just 3? I'm surprised." "The Emperor is cautious, not stupid," Alan replied. "He knows we could trap his entire fleet if we wanted to." General Carter nodded. "Our team leaves in 6 hours. John, Susan, you're both coming with me. Alan, you'll stay here and monitor the Draconian ships in orbit." "Who else is attending?" John asked. "Ambassador Lyra of the Luminary, and representatives from 5 other protected worlds. It seems we're not the only ones the Luminary have been watching over." Susan raised her eyebrows. 5 others, I only knew about 3. "That's classified information, Dr. Miller," a new voice said from the doorway. They all turned to see Secretary William Foster enter the room. He rarely visited the Sentinel base in person. His presence indicated the seriousness of the situation. "Mr. Secretary," General Carter said with a nod, "I wasn't expecting you." "This is too important for me to stay in Washington," the Secretary replied. "The President wants hourly updates. This meeting could change humanity's place in the galaxy forever." 8 miles below the surface of the moon, in a hidden facility unknown to most of humanity, the 12 Draconian ships from the Advance Fleet were being studied. The crews, nearly 300 aliens, were kept in a comfortable but secure area. "Doctor." Frank Harris walked through the detention area, observing the Draconians through one-way glass. They looked remarkably reptilian, with scaled skin and shades of green and brown yellow eyes and powerful bodies. They seemed calm but wary. His assistant, Laura Green, checked the data on her tablet. "Their biology is fascinating. Their cellular structure is unlike anything we've seen before." "Different from the Luminary?" Frank asked. "Completely. The Luminary are almost energy-based beings. These Draconians are physical, but their DNA structure is far more complex than ours." One of the Draconian officers noticed them watching and approached the glass. He couldn't see them, but somehow he sensed their presence. He spoke in his language, the sounds harsh and clicking. The translation system picked up his words. "We know you are there. How long will you keep us here?" Frank pressed a button, allowing his voice to be heard inside. "That depends on the outcome of tomorrow's meeting. Your Emperor is speaking with our leaders soon." The Draconian showed no surprise. "Then Vexthor succeeded in returning to the Empire." "Good. The Emperor will not show mercy to your world." Laura looked concerned. "Do they really think they're in a position to threaten us?" Frank shrugged. "They've been the dominant force in their sector for centuries. Old habits die hard." The Earthship Horizon moved silently through space. From the outside, it looked like a simple transport vessel. Inside, it contained technology centuries beyond what Earth officially possessed. General Carter, John, Susan, and a team of 6 specialists sat in the command center. With them was Ambassador Lyra of the Luminary, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. "The Draconians will be aggressive at first," Lyra said in her musical voice. "They do not know how to respond except with threats and displays of power." "How should we handle them?" Susan asked. "With calm certainty. They respect strength, show fear, and they will exploit it." John looked at the star map. "What exactly is our goal here? To establish peace?" General Carter's face was grim. "Our goal is to ensure the survival of Earth and its allies. If that means peace, good. If it means something else, he let the sentence hang unfinished. The Luminari do not seek conflict, Ambassador Lyra said, but we will not allow the Draconians to threaten the worlds under our protection. Susan looked troubled. I've been wondering something. Why did you choose Earth? Of all the planets in the galaxy, why did the Luminari decide to protect us? Lyra's large eyes blinked slowly. Because you are unique. In all our travels, we have never found another species with your particular qualities. What qualities? John asked. Creativity, adaptability, and a surprising capacity for both great violence and great compassion. Lyra smiled, a strange expression on her alien face. You humans are dangerous, but with guidance, you could become something extraordinary. Emperor Krazak of the Draconian Empire was not used to being summoned. For 300 years he had ruled the most powerful empire in his part of the galaxy. Planets bowed to his will, or were conquered. Yet here he was, on his flagship, heading to a meeting demanded by a species he had previously considered insignificant. The humans have powerful allies, Emperor, Vexthor said, standing before the Imperial throne. The Luminari are real, and they have been protecting Earth. So you have said, the Emperor replied, his voice deep and cold. Yet I find it hard to believe. The Luminari are myths, stories to frighten children. I saw one with my own eyes. They exist, and their technology is far beyond ours. The Emperor studied his commander thoughtfully. Vexithor was one of his most loyal officers. If he believed the Luminari were real, there must be some truth to it. And the humans? What of their capabilities? They hide their true technology, what they show to the galaxy, their simple rockets, their basic weapons. It is all a deception. They could have destroyed our fleet if they wanted to. The Emperor stood, his massive frame towering over Vexthor. No species deceives the Draconian Empire without consequences. If these humans and their Luminari allies think to intimidate us, they will learn the true meaning of power. Vexthor wanted to argue, but knew better. The Emperor had never faced defeat. He did not know how to bend. We are approaching the meeting coordinates, Emperor, an officer reported from the door. Good, the Emperor said. Prepare my honor guard. It is time to meet these humans and their mythical protectors. As the Imperial ship approached the hidden space station, Vexthor felt a sense of dread. The Emperor did not understand what they were facing. He still believed in the Empire's supremacy, but Vexthor had seen the truth. He had witnessed his fleet, 17 of the most powerful warships in the Empire, rendered helpless by Earth's hidden technology. And he feared that before this meeting ended, the Emperor would learn a painful lesson about humanity's place in the galaxy, a lesson that might change the Draconian Empire forever. The space station hung silently among the asteroids, its sleek design unlike any known human architecture. Its curved walls and flowing lines suggested Luminari influence. Inside, the main conference chamber was prepared for the historic meeting. General Carter adjusted his uniform as he stood with the Earth delegation. Beside him, Susan and John reviewed their notes one last time. Ambassador Lyra and representatives from 5 other protected worlds waited calmly at the large round table. The Draconian ships have arrived, a voice announced over the speaker. Susan took a deep breath. Here we go. The main doors slid open. Emperor Krazak entered first, flanked by 6 guards in heavy armor. He was larger than the other Draconians, his scales deeper in color, almost black. Behind him came Vexthor and 2 other commanders. The Emperor's yellow eyes scanned the room, pausing on each delegate before settling on Ambassador Lyra. For a moment he seemed startled by the sight of the Luminari, but he quickly regained his composure. Emperor Krazak, Ambassador Lyra said, her voice soft but carrying throughout the room. We welcome you to this council. The Emperor did not bow or show any sign of respect. I have come as requested, though I must say, being summoned like a servant does not please me. General Carter stepped forward. This is not a summons, Emperor. This is an opportunity for dialogue before further misunderstandings occur. The Emperor's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, revealing sharp teeth. Misunderstandings? Is that what you call the capture of my ships? The detention of my soldiers? Your fleet entered protected space without permission, John said. They came with weapons ready. That is not the action of a peaceful visitor. The Emperor turned his gaze to John. And who are you to speak to me, human? John Kelly, Earth Defense Initiative. Ah, the ones who hide behind false weakness. The Emperor gestured to the seats. Let us not waste time. You have something to say. Say it. They all sat down. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ambassador Lyra spoke first. For those who may not know, I am Lyra of the Luminary High Council. For thousands of years my people have maintained balance in this sector of the galaxy. So the legends are true, one of the Draconian commanders whispered. We have watched your empire's expansion with concern, Lyra continued. Your conquests of peaceful worlds, your destruction of ancient cultures. The Emperor seemed unimpressed. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the way of the universe. No, General Carter said firmly. That is the way of the Draconian Empire, and it ends now. Back on Earth, Alan Boyd monitored the meeting from Sentinel Base. On his screens, he could see everything happening at the space station. Secretary Foster stood behind him, watching intently. The Emperor doesn't seem concerned, the secretary observed. He doesn't understand the situation yet, Alan replied. He still thinks he has the upper hand. On another screen, data streamed in from the Moon facility. The captured Draconian ships were yielding valuable information about their technology and weaknesses. Sir, a technician called from across the room. We're detecting unusual activity from the Draconian fleet still in orbit. Alan turned to that screen. The frozen ships were still held in the energy field, but something was changing. What am I looking at? They're emitting some kind of signal. It's very weak, but it's getting through our containment field. Alan felt a chill. Can we block it? Working on it, sir. Secretary Foster looked concerned. Could they be calling for reinforcements? Possibly. Alan picked up a secure phone. I need to alert General Carter immediately. At the space station, the meeting was not going well. Emperor Krazak refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing by the Empire. We expand because it is our right, he insisted. We take what we need to. Survive. If other species cannot defend themselves, that is nature's way. Susan shook her head. And what gives you the right to decide who lives and who dies? Who deserves a planet and who doesn't? Power gives us that right, the Emperor said, simply, as it always has. Ambassador Lyra's expression remained calm, but her silver skin seemed to glow more brightly. Then, by your own logic, Emperor, if a power greater than yours exists, you must submit to it. There is no greater power than the Draconian Empire. Generals here. Carter's communicator beeped softly. He glanced at it and his face darkened. He leaned toward John and whispered something. John nodded and quietly left the room. The Emperor noticed. Problems, General? Nothing we can't handle, General Carter replied evenly. Vexthor, who had been silent until now, studied the general's face. He sensed something was wrong. The commander leaned toward his Emperor. We should proceed with caution. These humans have resources we don't fully understand. The Emperor waved him away. They are bluffing. If they truly had the power, they claim, why hide it for so long? Why pretend to be weak? Sometimes, Susan said. Appearing weak when you are strong is the greatest advantage. Before the Emperor could respond, John returned to the room. He handed a data pad to General Carter, who read it quickly. It seems your ships in Earth orbit are attempting to send a signal, Emperor, the general said. A distress call, perhaps, or maybe orders for more ships to join them. The Emperor's expression didn't change, but Vexthor looked startled. You were never interested in dialogue, General Carter continued. This meeting was just a distraction while you prepared your next move. Prove it, the Emperor challenged. General Carter turned to a large screen on the wall. It flickered to life, showing the Draconian fleet still frozen in orbit around Earth. Another screen showed data streams and signal patterns. Your ships are using a subspace frequency to communicate, Susan explained. Very clever. Most containment fields wouldn't detect it. The Emperor finally looked uneasy. And yours did? We've been studying your technology for decades, Emperor, General Carter said. There is very little about the Draconian Empire that we don't know. Vexthor leaned toward his ruler again. Emperor, I believe we should reconsider our approach. The Emperor ignored him. If you know so much about us, then you know we will never stop. We will never surrender. If these ships are lost, we will send more, and more after that. The Empire does not accept defeat. Ambassador Lyra stood up. Her slender form seemed to grow taller, more imposing. Then perhaps it is time for the Empire to learn a new lesson. She raised her hand, and the screen changed. It now showed a star map of Draconian space. At the center was the Imperial homeworld. 3 luminary vessels now orbit your capital planet, she said calmly. 3 more are positioned at key military installations throughout your empire. If you choose the path of continued aggression, Emperor Krazak, you will return home to find your empire significantly diminished. For the first time, the Emperor looked truly shocked. You're bluffing. The Luminari do not bluff, Lyra replied. We have watched your empire grow through violence for too long. It ends today. The room fell silent. The future of 2 civilizations hung in the balance, and the choice rested with an emperor who had never known defeat. Emperor Krazak stood motionless, his yellow eyes fixed on the screen showing Luminari ships near his homeworld. For the first time in his 300-year rule, he faced a force he might not be able to defeat. The silence in the conference room stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Vexthor stepped forward and bowed deeply to his emperor. My ruler, I suggest we consider their terms. The emperor's scales darkened with anger. You suggest surrender? I suggest survival, Vexthor replied, quietly. I have seen their power firsthand. They could have destroyed our ships. Instead, they chose to talk. General Carter nodded. Commander Vexthor is right. We did not bring you here to humiliate your empire. We brought you here to change its course. The Emperor looked around the room, studying each face. The human, delegates, the Luminari ambassador, the representatives from other worlds his empire had threatened. They waited calmly for his decision. What are your terms? He finally asked, his voice low and controlled. Ambassador Lyra gestured to a datapad on the table. The Luminari Accords, a treaty that will establish protected zones throughout this sector of the galaxy. Planets that wish to develop without outside interference will be left alone. And if we refuse, then the Draconian Empire as you know it will cease to exist, Lyra said simply. The Emperor's pride warred with his survival instinct. He had not built the greatest empire in the sector by being foolish. If these Luminari could position ships at his homeworld without detection, they could do far worse. I will need time to review these accords, he said. Susan slid the datapad toward him. Take all the time you need, Emperor. Your fleet will remain where it is until a decision is reached. On Earth, life continued as normal. Billions of humans went about their daily routines, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in space. In a small classroom in Ohio, teacher Patricia Jenkins explained the solar system to her students. And remember, she told them with a smile, space is much bigger and more mysterious than we can imagine. 8-year-old Bobby raised his hand. Miss Jenkins, my dad says aliens aren't real. Is that true? Patricia kept her smile steady. As a member of the Earth Knowledge Initiative, she knew far more than she could ever tell her students. Well, Bobby, the universe is a very big place. There could be all kinds of life out there we haven't discovered yet. Another child, Emma, spoke. Up. My mom works at NASA, and she says there are planets that might have water just like Earth. That's right, Patricia agreed. Scientists call them potentially habitable planets. What she didn't say was that humans had already visited 12 of those planets. That Earth had been part of a galactic community for decades, that their simple view of space and humanity's place in it was carefully constructed. Some truths were still too big to share. In the Sentinel Base conference room, Alan Boyd watched the meeting on the large screen. Secretary Foster paced nervously behind him. "The Emperor is reviewing the accords," Alan reported. "It looks like he might actually agree." "Thank God," the secretary sighed. "The President was concerned we might be starting an interstellar war." "Sir, what happens after this?" Alan asked. "If the Draconians sign the accords, do we continue hiding our true capabilities from the rest of the world?" Secretary Foster paused his pacing. "That's a complicated question, Alan. The Revelation Protocol has been in development for years, slowly introducing humanity to the truth about our place in the galaxy. But when? Soon. The incident with the Draconians has accelerated our timeline. The public needs to be prepared for what's coming." Alan looked confused. "What is coming, sir?" The secretary's face grew serious. "Change, Alan. The kind of change humanity hasn't seen since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone." At the space station, Emperor Krazak finally looked up from the datapad. He had read the Luminary Accords twice. They were fair, perhaps more fair than he would have been in their position. "These protected zones include many resource-rich systems," he noted. "Systems my empire needs for expansion." "There are other systems," Susan said. "Uninhabited ones that you can develop without threatening peaceful worlds." "And my ships? My soldiers currently in your custody?" "They will be returned once the accords are signed," General Carter assured him. "No harm has come to them." The Emperor turned to Vexthor. "Your opinion, Commander? You who have seen Earth's defenses firsthand." Vexthor straightened his posture. "The accords are fair, Emperor, and they leave us room to adapt. The Empire can survive this change. It must survive." After a long moment, the Emperor nodded. "Very well. I will sign your accords." The tension in the room eased instantly. Ambassador Lyra's silver skin seemed to glow with approval. "A wise decision, Emperor," she said. "One that begins a new chapter for the Draconian Empire and for this sector of the galaxy." As the formal signing began, John leaned close to Susan. "Do you think he'll keep his word?" Susan watched the Emperor carefully. "He's proud but not stupid. He knows the alternative is worse. And over time, he may see the benefits of peace over constant warfare." General Carter joined their conversation. "Either way, Earth is no longer hiding. We've taken our place at the galactic table." "What does that mean for us?" John asked. "For humanity?" "It means the real work is just beginning," the general replied. "The world needs to know the truth, not all at once, but gradually." "And the other protected worlds?" Susan asked. "Will we finally meet them openly?" General Carter smiled. "That's the plan, a formal alliance of free worlds with the Luminary as our guides." As they talked, Emperor Krazak pressed his scaled finger to the datapad, officially signing the accords. A new era had begun for the Draconian Empire, for Earth, for the galaxy. 1 month later, a seemingly routine news broadcast was interrupted worldwide. On screens across the planet, General Richard Carter appeared in full military dress. "People of Earth," he began, "today I speak to you about a truth that has been kept secret for 70 years. In living rooms, offices, and public spaces, humans stopped to listen. Some would doubt, some would fear, but most would look to the stars with new understanding. Earth had never been alone. And now, finally, humanity was ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors like the Draconians, not as guides like the Luminari, but as something uniquely human, adaptable, creative, and surprisingly capable of both great destruction and great compassion. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would Earth.